Welcome to the deep dive. You know the drill. You hand us the sources, we deliver the distilled knowledge. It's really a shortcut to understanding complex stuff through, well, powerful human stories. And today, our material is focused on just one incredibly raw piece of history.
Mm.
It's a set of verses, very personal, called A Spark of Revolution by Nimawira Tunga. The original's in Sinhala, but the feeling, the message, that's universal. This isn't, poetry about lofty ideals. It's more like an emotional receipt.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it details the huge, often just catastrophic cost of sticking to your political beliefs during a time of massive national upheaval. So our mission today is to get beyond just the summary, the headlines, and really dive into the human experience. How did one person navigate, well, extreme fear, systemic corruption, and honestly, truly heartbreaking personal loss, all while fighting for an ideology?
And what's really fascinating here, I think, is how the source just immediately lays out the stakes. Right from the start, we're looking at someone who chose to affiliate with and actually run for election with the Janata Vimukthi Peramuna, the JVP.
Right.
And this wasn't like joining a mainstream party today. Back then, aligning with the JVP, that meant embracing a radical movement under intense government scrutiny. Making that choice was basically an act of profound defiance,
Yeah.
potentially life-threatening.
Yeah.
And the sheer weight of that decision, the politics meeting the immediate personal danger, that's really the foundation for this whole deep dive.
That context is so critical because the source kicks off with this stunning claim, really sets the stage for, well, extraordinary courage. The poet says they ran for office with the JVP when no one else would. So we have to ask, is that literally true? Or is it maybe a way to emphasize just how utterly alone they felt?
I think it functions as both, probably. That line suggests this vacuum of leadership, so profound that stepping up wasn't ambition. It felt more like a desperate necessity. And it immediately paints a picture of the atmosphere, right? This pervasive terror that defined that whole era. The poet talks about operating in a place where the fear was so thick, parents feared for those killed and those hidden missing.
Wow.
This isn't just political disagreement we're talking about. This is a situation where basic safety is just gone, annihilated.
And the pushback, suppression, it was very specific, very localized. If we look closely at the source, a couple of images really jump out about the institutional reaction. First, operating in this island, as the pro calls, maybe a region or context, where the JVP was flat out banned in schools.
Yeah, think about that for a second. What that actually means for activists on the ground.
Right.
And tells you the opposition was total. It started right in the places meant to educate, to build community. If you can't even be present or hand out a leaflet in a school, you're facing a system that's truly been weaponized against you.
And the second image really hammers home the physical danger. The fear that followed was so intense. People weren't just scared of the police or the army. They were looking out for what the poet calls the gonabilin.
The boogeymen.
Exactly, the boogeymen.
And this is, well, it's a perfect example of the psychological warfare described in the source. When your political opponents get turned into these folklore monsters, the gonabilin, it elevates the threat, doesn't it? It's not just a human enemy anymore. It becomes this constant, almost supernatural dread.
Like it could be anywhere.
Exactly, hiding anywhere. And that fear gets internalized by everyone, the whole community, turning them, maybe unintentionally, into passive agents of suppression themselves.
So if the whole community is terrified, what happens when that fear turns inward? When the activist becomes the outcast? And this is where the story takes a turn, doesn't it? From the external political danger to this deep personal heartbreak, the isolation the poet faced. The source describes living in a world where neighbors, friends, even like extended family wouldn't let them speak at a wedding or a funeral, just because of their politics.
That's staggering.
It is. It's not just the state pushing back. It's being cut out of the basic social fabric of life.
That kind of social death. It's often the first casualty, isn't it, in these high-stakes situations? And the source then lays out the sacrifices almost poetically.
Yeah.
The list of losses isn't just biography. It establishes that this kind of resistance demanded the dissolution of his entire personal world.
Yeah.
We see this heartbreaking list: siblings, friends, father, wife, Nona. These are the people now, missing or lost to the poet because of what he believed. The price for taking that political path was total. It wasn't just losing your job, it was losing your family, your community.
And the weight of that sacrifice, it just feels heavier when the poet looks at things now, today. There's this incredible sense of betrayal in the text, this lament that the people shouting now on YouTube and in newspapers, well, They were sleeping when the poet was actually active in facing death.
That really hits hard.
It raises a tough question, doesn't it? How does a movement square the sacrifices of the few who took all the initial risk with the many who kind of benefit now that the space is maybe safer?
That line definitely suggests a deep internal disillusionment. I mean, the poet risked everything, life, family, to carve out a space for dissent, right? Only to feel like the current beneficiaries just weren't there during the real terror. It sort of shifts the source of pain, doesn't it? From the external enemy to this internal bitterness, this feeling of unacknowledged sacrifice within the movement itself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And if you follow that thread, the suffering didn't end with losing family, it bled into his work life too. So maybe let's shift to that institutional struggle. It shows how the system was weaponized against him, even on a daily administrative level.
Exactly. The source suggests the poet worked in education. There's the mention of a school, and it highlights how resources were specifically denied by superiors. The principal, the Vidyapathy, wouldn't grant basic things like leave, a loan, or a promotion.
Think about that.
It's not just surviving death threats anymore. It's that grinding, daily administrative warfare that can just wear you down completely.
Yeah, the bureaucracy is a weapon.
And on top of that, the poet talks about how hard it was to get a transfer. Being forced to run around desperately, Dos's the Dua Panina Kalika, literally running around 10-handed, just frantic, trying to get a basic administrative need met.
And that denial, on the micro level, it's a direct result of the macro level corruption that fueled the JVP's whole revolutionary drive in the first place. The poet gives us the why take these risks, framing it as a necessary reaction to a system basically designed for theft.
Right.
The source material paints a really grim picture of the state at the time. A land where thieves are intoxicated, the uneducated become ministers, rulers, Rajawunu Desheka. This isn't just griping. It's the justification for the immense personal risk he took. The whole moral compass of the society felt inverted.
And the mechanics of the corruption are laid out too.
Yeah.
The source describes a society where people are constantly stealing money, hiding it systematically, yadimari gasa, and through this ongoing abuse of power, they essentially become untouchable, like gods. That really highlights the cycle, doesn't it? Theft leads to power, power protects the theft, and the thieves become invulnerable. It makes you understand why the poet felt such extreme measures were the only way to break that cycle.
And this political payback, this dishapalana pelaganum, as the source calls it, it infects everything, even places that should be bastions of intellect. The source claims that respected figures like professors, the Adiaro, are being degraded, that they're becoming like cattle haraka adiaro.
Oh, wow. Cattle professors. That metaphor is chilling.
What exactly should we take from haraka adiaro? Are they being purged or just forced into line?
I think it strongly suggests degradation and forced subservience. Treated like livestock, basically. Implying their intellectual independence, their autonomy has been stripped away by political pressure.
So comply or face ruin. Exactly. Toe the line or face administrative or professional destruction yourself. It shows the rot wasn't just at the top. It went deep into the systems meant to uphold truth and knowledge, turning educated professionals into political tools.
So, okay, if we put all this together, the total personal loss, the professional isolation, the systemic sabotage day after day, the story builds to this final crushing image.
It really does. The source leaves us with the ultimate tally of the cost, etched onto his family structure. The poet's uncle, Mama, is dead. The aunt, Nenda, is disabled, and his wife, Nona, is in the hospital.
Just devastating.
This is the catastrophic endpoint of the journey described. Not just losing political fights, but the complete disintegration of his personal support system.
A completely shattering price to pay. But the poem doesn't actually end in despair, does it?
No, remarkably it doesn't. Despite all the fear, the loneliness, the systemic rot, it concludes with this powerful assertion of purpose, an attempt maybe to justify everything that was lost. Because we carried the weight, the whole country was saved for a free world. And that forces the fundamental question, right? When the price is the total destruction of your personal world, family, career, social standing, can you really weigh that against the abstract value of saving a nation, securing a free world? The source seems to want to answer yes, but the sheer weight of the loss is documented. It hangs heavy.
Okay, so let's zoom out. What's the core knowledge nugget here for you, the listener? What this deep dive really gives us is this raw, unfiltered look at political activism when the stakes are incredibly high. It tells us that fighting systemic corruption and fear, it's about more than just ideology. It demands the absolute breakdown of basically every personal security blanket you rely on.
Everything becomes vulnerable.
everything, from getting a promotion at work to just having your sister's support. It all becomes forfeit the moment you decide to stand up. We've gone from the immense courage needed just to step forward when everyone else was hiding, through the absolute heartbreak of social and family loss, and finally through that daily grind against systemic bureaucratic corruption. This poem, A Spark of Revolution, it feels like a profound document of human conviction, but one written in blood, not just ink.
And this leaves us with a really important question, I think, something for you, the listener, to maybe mull over. We see the total price of conviction just laid bare here. So the real question the poem poses, perhaps implicitly, is this. When the cost of standing up involves losing every single personal anchor, family, job, safety, what hidden reason, what tiny internal spark keeps someone fighting when the entire world is telling them to stop? And not only keeps them fighting, but allows them to believe even afterwards that the struggle was somehow worth it. What is that irreducible fuel for revolution?